All right, so I have 10:03, and I know we still have some people that are going to be trickling in, so we will try to catch them up as we go along. But to be respectful of everyone's time, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. So for those of you that just joined, I'm Dr. Nicole Hutton, and I'll be your facilitator in the main room throughout the workshop. Please note that all sessions can be accessed through the WebEx landing page link that you used to get in here today. Blake is going to go ahead and post that link so that you can bookmark it for use throughout the session. I'm also going to pull that up so that we can just give you an idea of where you should have landed in case that's not the way that you went in. So this is the landing page. And in a minute, I'm going to show you the participants guides, which you should also have access to, and we will post the link for in just a little bit. But so ideally, you're in this main session now, and then when we go to breakouts later, you'll pick the number of the breakout that you're assigned and go in there from then. And then when we're done with breakouts, you'll come back to the main session from this same landing page. And Wendy was just kind enough to reiterate that when you get to the original landing page, you want to actually log in as a guest because this is hosted by ODU, and so we have some sort of confusing Midas login that doesn't apply to most people. Thank you for letting me demo that landing page. I'm going to bring us back to our PowerPoint. All right, so just a brief reminder of the purpose of this set of workshops and an extended welcome on behalf of the entire NASA Unbound Coastal Issues team. This has been a group effort. We wouldn't be here today without everyone on the team, and everyone is excited that all of you have joined us to make this workshop really special. A brief reminder here of the purpose. We're looking to reach greater potential of NASA data through collaboration between NASA data scientists and analysis and visualization practitioners, which are you, in targeted communities. Our workshop will introduce some of the NASA data and tools available to support mitigation and resilience planning efforts. Sorry about that. So there are several documents available to you today. There is a participants guide and our interactive Google Drive. And Blake is going to post in the chat a link to that participants guide so that you can all use that throughout the day. Again, that is where you're going to be able to find your groups for the group sessions later. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like so that you know when you've found it. All right, so it should look like this when you get there. We're asking you to sign in. You can type in this document throughout the day. If you're looking for which breakout room you're in, it's at the bottom. So just please scroll down until you find your name. All right. So that Google Doc that I just showed you, the participants guide, we recommend that you have that open throughout the workshop today. We ask that you take a moment to pull that up now. And again, please record that you are here in that document. Right. So we want to start by thanking our funder, NASA Earth Science Division. The Unbound for Coastal Issues, aka UNBOUND CI, is a multi-session workshop supported by NASA's understanding needs to broaden outside use of NASA data, which is what UNBOUND stands for. And that's the project we're supported by here. Any opinions, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in the material of these workshops are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the views of NASA. The purpose of today's workshop is to understand coastal zone management and NASA resources, including the associated science, application, and data. We will focus on NASA's Earth data and RSET. Right. And at this time, I have the honor of introducing some of our speakers. So our first set of speakers are NASA representatives who have graciously agreed to welcome you to the workshop. I'm going to go ahead and take down my screen share so that they can get ready. Our first speaker is Dr. Gwala Stinger. He will provide an introduction and comments. Dr. Gerald, aka Stinger Gwala, is a program scientist in Earth Science Data Systems at NASA, program officer for UNBOUND, and the Citizen Science for Earth Systems program, and Earth Science lead for Citizen Science. If you've already started your screen share, fantastic. Take it away when you're ready, Stinger.
Stinger, if you're talking, you're muted.
How's that?
Better.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I want to welcome everyone to be here. Thank you for coming. Much appreciated. These workshops have been really incredibly useful in planning. We're right now doing some organizational changes in the way that we manage data, the hierarchy of how all that works. And a lot of the things that I've gained, the knowledge that I've gained from the Unbound workshops have been really integral to big pieces of input in that planning. So welcome and thank you. So what's Unbound about? NASA data is, it's usually global, the satellite data, and so it's comprehensive, it's accurate, and it's some of the most important data we have for addressing all kinds of global issues. The problem is it's also very often very hard to use, and we have problems engaging outside communities beyond those communities that were either involved in the design of the satellites or the other Earth observing systems. And we have problems with, even when we do engage those communities, turn out available in a way that they can use it, because everyone has their own way that they use data. So that's what Unbound is about. And there's a lot of data. You know where this is going. these are all current satellites. So I won't run the whole thing. But we have a lot of data coming in all the time. Come on. Whoops. I'm trying to stop the slide and it's wanting me to stop the whole presentation. Okay, how about that? Okay, and there's a big fleet up there. In fact, this slide's a little bit out of date because we've launched SWAT already, and you can see there's a lot of data coming in. But again, you have all these satellites orbiting Earth. They're bringing in just gargantuan amounts of data, and they're hard to use. We also have a whole bunch of other ways the data is coming in. We've got cell signals and on-the-ground calibration data sets and balloons and all kinds of drones and things like that. And, there's 149 million files in the DAC, 72 petabytes. And I want you all to look at every petabyte out there, every one of those 149 million files, please. Get me a full evaluation of each one. I'm kidding there, but I do want you to really look broadly across the data. And I don't want you just to look at data sets based on their general, overview. So, and I'll give you an example of what I mean. So this is JEDI data, and it's showing the canopy over a bunch of redwood trees. These some of these higher yellow areas like that. I bet that's a giant redwood tree, okay? But this is a similar kind of data from ISAT. It's LiDAR data. And ISAT was built, we don't have a lot of feedback here, so I'll just tell you, ISAT was generally built to look at ice levels. So it flies over the Arctic, it looks at ice levels. Then they, there was a piece of it that said, well, we can look at land height as well, and they do that. And then someone was looking at this a couple of years ago, and this is the Bahamas. So why are they looking at ice in the Bahamas? They're not. What they're looking at is coral reefs. And they were looking at the data and they went, oh my God, this is the best resource ever for looking at coral reefs. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. And it was never designed for that. But it is, just far and away better than anything we've ever had to observe coral reefs from space. So there are these kind of off-target uses. And if you have ideas for those, that's really useful. You can create a new cottage industry just by looking at it. So again, we have all of this data. Different communities have different needs, and we need to understand those needs and address them. A lot of quick wins are possible. There are things that Unbound workshops have found in our Earth data interface where we were using keywords that no one understood, or we were, only the design team understood, stuff like that. There was a really kind of a city-based group that we were looking at, and one of the people said, if I could search this by zip code, that would be a lot better. And oh my God, we never thought of that. That would be awesome. And it's totally easy to do. So, any ideas you have to make this better. And there are all kinds of things that come up that we always see. I didn't even know the data was there. That's a big one. I think the shop's going to get down on that with a lot of people. Giant size to the data sets. It's not in the right format in my analysis program. Things about the data sets. It would be great, but I need a different periodicity in it. We always hear I need a higher level interpreted product, meaning take that messy satellite data and interpret it into a map that I can pop into ArcView or Arc Pro or something. That's true, but that's and we hear that a lot. It's also a heavy lift sometimes. Subsetting, I don't want the whole Earth, I just want 12 hectares. And, things like there isn't high enough resolution. So sometimes you can downscale for resolution. Sometimes you need a whole new satellite, and some things we're never going to get, or no time soon are we going to get millimeter resolution from space. It's going to be unusual. So keep those kind of things in mind. But these are all different kinds of things that we've heard before. So what are we asking of you? We want you to use the data, see how it works in your own analysis. This is not a training workshop. That's why we're paying some of you. It's not for training. It's there. I realize there has to be some introduction to the data, but this is not a training workshop. We are looking for you to be a data analysis person and use NASA data in your analysis, and then tell us where the hurdles were. Was the hurdle finding it? Was it getting it? Was it in the format of the data? Things like that. We need those feedbacks, and we need them expressed very specifically. We want specific, realistic, and actionable recommendations, like the resolution factor I was talking about. We're always going to hear, I want millimeter resolution from space, but that's kind of not really realistic. So, try to stay in the world. Don't keep yourself from dreaming, but don't put huge amounts of effort into things that are unrealistic. try to specify exact variables, try to specify exactly what was wrong. I want a diversity of recommendations from the smallest to the biggest. Okay. And we put those on different lists. A lot of the small stuff we fix right away. A lot of the big stuff, it can go on a list and take 25 years before we design a satellite to fix that issue. And sometimes some of them never get met, to be realistic, because it's a lot of money. But we can put it on, we can't put it on the to-do list unless we have a recommendation for it. Think out of the box. Like I was talking about ISAT data being used for kind of off-target uses. If there are things like that that make sense to you, please put them in the report. And I want you should feel free. You should highly encourage to publish, share conferences. Anything you learn out of this is open science, and you are highly encouraged to share it everywhere. And I know that the PIs are going to do a good job of that because we're going to force them to. But the rest of you are welcome to share the outcomes of this workshop wherever you want. And remember, just to be clear, this is a workshop about coastal issues, so kind of try to keep on subject, and focus, because that's the only way we're going to get really clear recommendations. So what's Unbound going to do for you? We do carefully consider your recommendations. They go to a whole series of to-do lists and project management systems. They go into, we talk about them in strategy meetings, and we will provide NASA experts for advice on data systems and data. You have some of them here today. We'll follow up with an assessment. In fact, Wendy is a co-author on a paper that we have submitted to AGU right now, which is going to be part of that follow-up. And we'll do more workshops with other communities. And if you have recommendations for other communities that need to be addressed, please let us know. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There have been a couple of questions in the chat about whether or not we're going to share your slides, and I'm excited to share with you that we are going to share all of the slides today from every presenter. That will arrive in an email sent when we're done today. And I want to thank you for using the chat for your questions and let you know that there is also a questions section in the participant guide for the day that we will be monitoring too. So you have a couple different ways to ask. All right, so let me just reiterate again. Thank you so much, Stinger, for sharing with us today. I appreciate that you've already unshared your screen, and we're going to, at this time, have Dr. Luna Cruz share about the NASA Earth Science Division, Equity and Environmental Justice. Dr. Jaitza Luna Cruz is the program executive at the Earth Data Office and the program manager for the early career research at the Earth Science Division at NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C. And I see you've already shared your slides, so thank you so much. Whenever you are ready, go ahead and get started.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here with Unbound Coastal Issues. And today, as it was said already, I'm Dr. Jaitza Luna Cruz, and today I'm going to be talking about NASA equity and environmental justice. As you know, the Unbound coastal issues have a component that we're going to be talking about environmental justice. So, but first, before moving forward, I want you to look at this image. This image, it was taken from the NASA Earth Day 2023 poster. This is a piece of art that was inspired by the promise that NASA is leading the next generation of explorers to discover the world around them. As a Latina in STEM, born and raised in Puerto Rico, when I see this image, I see myself in that little girl. I see a current and future generation of NASA explorers that are diverse, inclusive, and that are striving for equity. We all know that NASA leads the nation on the great journey of discovery, seeking new knowledge and understanding of our planet Earth, the sun, the universe, to enable a space exploration, but most importantly, to benefit life on Earth. But I want to start sharing NASA's definition for environmental justice. Following the White House Environmental Justice Advisory Council, our definition of environmental justice is based on the understanding and that the use of NASA data, products, and personnel can and should inform the just treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, income, or ability, with respect to the development, implementation, and evaluation of program practices and activities that affect human health and the environment, basically everything that we do. Likewise, we are adopting the definition for environmental justice communities as geographic location within the United States and its territories with significant representation of persons of color, low-income persons, indigenous persons, or members of tribal nations, where such individuals experience or are at risk of experiencing higher or more adverse human health and environmental outcomes. It's also important to mention that while these definitions are currently focused on United States and its territories, we recognize that climate change disproportionately influences environmental exposure and vulnerabilities of marginalized communities referred to as climate justice. And some of the research that we do at the Earth Science Division also have global implications. This is the video that Stinker attempted to present. So what is the role of NASA here? As we can see on this recent animation of the NASA Earth fleet, it is incredible the amount of observation that we constantly receive for our planet. All these satellite observation, as Stinger mentioned, along with other observing platforms such as aircraft and ground system, allow NASA Earth Science Division to obtain a lot of data and information about our planet. We can study and understand environmental issues such as disasters, urban heat, flooding, wildfires, air quality, coastal issues, and way more. And when we combine this data with socioeconomic data and community knowledge, we can help address environmental issues. Let's look at this example. On September 2017, Category 4 Hurricane Maria made landfall on my beautiful island of Puerto Rico. The devastation was unimaginable. Over 3,000 people died and 1.5 million people on the island lost power. And for many of these people, power was not restored for almost a year, including my family. This is the longest blackout in US history. The areas with the most severe and prolonged impacts were areas with lower socioeconomic status. These communities lack the resources and the representation to repair damage quickly, leading to long-term lack of access of electricity, water, and other critical supplies. To understand how multiple factors and events converge on vulnerable communities, the integration and visualization of data is critical. NASA scientists have assembled a dashboard that brings together many sources of information and tools. For example, socioeconomic data and Earth observation analysis via machine learning to help communities understand what has happened and why it has happened. Integration of information like this is critical for informing decision makers to mitigate future disasters. All the data for the dashboard is free, open, and available to the public. These open data and resources are supporting the new Earth Science to Action strategy, in which all the Earth Science Division elements are working together to better serve and meet societal needs. Here's how we see it. At the base, we have the foundational knowledge, new technology, our missions, and all the Earth data systems. Then we have the unmeasurable value that brings the understanding of the Earth system science and the application of that research. Now we want to take a step forward and highlight and amplify all the work that the Earth Science Division does to help find solutions to the most pressing problems we face here on Earth and add society values. To do so, we want to increase public understanding of what we do and engage with the community to find new ways of exploration, discovery, and Earth science to action. The work that you're doing here during this Unbound workshop is essential for us to better serve our communities. You are all part of these Earth science to action. When it comes to equity and environmental justice, the NASA Earth Science Division not only aims to diversify Earth science research and applications communities with representation from all backgrounds, but also support EJ communities by expanding awareness, accessibility, and use of Earth science data. So how everything started? I must say that even NASA have been working for almost 50 years on observations and research that have been indirectly contributing to environmental justice. It was not until 2020 that conversation started across NASA Earth Science Division at headquarters about the niche that NASA occupies when it comes to environmental justice. In 2021, in alignment with two executive orders, the first one was advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government, and the second one is tackling climate crisis at home and abroad. The Earth Science Division Equity and Environmental Justice Strategy was created. I'm going to be talking about that strategy later on. So in 2022, equity in climate data accessibility and environmental justice was added as one of the 4 focus areas of Mission Equity. Mission Equity is the NASA Equity Action Plan, and Unbound was part of that NASA Equity Action Plan. This year, NASA was added to the White House Justice 40 initiative. This initiative will bring resources to communities most impacted by climate change, pollution, and environmental hazards. So what is the Earth Science Division Equity and Environmental Justice Strategy? We defined 5 goals. The first thing that we needed to do was a full assessment of what we have related to environmental justice, and then to identify barriers, gaps, and opportunities. Goal number 2 was to engage with the different communities that are working in topics related to environmental justice and listen and learn and establish potential partnerships for this equity and environmental justice strategy. Goal number 3 was hosting different data accessibility and utility sessions. That's why we have an environmental justice workshops, and also we have an Unbound environmental justice. And goal number 4 was enable transdisciplinary science applications that integrates physical and social science using NASA data sets. I'm going to be talking about the different ROSES solicitations that we have that are part of goal number 4. And most importantly, goal number 5. Our intention with this equity and environmental justice strategy across the Earth Science Division was to incorporate equity and environmental and climate justice teams across all the Earth Science Division programs. So I'm gonna now start talking about what the different programs have done so far and different resources that we have that you can use when it comes to environmental justice. First, we have the Earth Science Data Systems, enabling the use of Earth data for equity and environmental justice. These are a couple of resources. I'm going to be dropping in the chat some of the links so that you have it, these resources. The first one is the EJ Data Backgrounders. This is this article provides different information about how NASA data are being used to support environmental and climate justice, and that have different use cases, the data set use, how people are using the data, etc. Then we have EJ Data Catalog. It's a complete catalog data sets with over 142 data sets that can be used for environmental justice. And it's organized based on EJ indicators, for example, disaster, urban flooding, extreme heat. It's a very simple, comprehensive data catalog so that people are aware of the data that they can use. I have to say, all the data is free, open, and available. And we also, thanks to the Open Science Initiative, we have a new open source platforms called Visualization, Exploration, Data, and Analysis Platform. And we made around 10 data sets that are available in the cloud related to the, environmental justice. And we have a focus area, a discovery area just for environmental justice with different discoveries and stories that highlight how NASA data have been used for environmental justice. We have Unbound, Understanding Needs to Broaden Outside Use of NASA Data. You're part of this. We have two Unbounds that were directly related to environmental justice. One that touched the general environmental justice. I encourage you to see the report. It's available online. And also the air quality and now coastal issues that is happening now is all you and have also an environmental justice component of it. And I want to highlight also that as part of the Earth Science Data System, we are funding different opportunities related to environmental justice and open science, this through the NASA TOPS-T solicitation and the other solicitation that we have, that is topical workshop, symposium, and conference. We have multiple projects related to environmental justice. We are also have the data migration to the cloud. This is part of the Open Source Science Initiative, and it made it to the NASA Equity Action Plan. And we set a goal for 2022 to have the 50 most requested environmental data sets transition to the cloud. We are happy to report that we exceeded our expectations. We have around 79 data sets now in the cloud that are related to environmental issues, and data includes precipitation, aerosol, land surface temperature, vegetation index, etc. We also have the Open Source Science Initiative, and open science is a way to enhance equity through accelerating science by promoting a collaborative culture, by increasing participation by people that oftentimes don't participate in NASA science, also by allowing or enabling the near real-time products, and also, and most importantly, this is the best part of it, is empowering communities through data, making data more accessible, usable, and meaningful for all as a public service. And we have the NASA Transport to Open Science, which is a 5-year mission to accelerate the adoption of open science. And we are running a free curriculum, Open Science 101. We encourage all the community to take this curriculum to advance and adopt practices related to open science. So also we have in other program element, the research and analysis, we have a lot of environmental justice and climate justice studies related in the RNA program. For example, here we have a NASA Urban and Satellite EJ studies is combining aircraft measurements with satellite measurements. And there's a really good work by Dematillo. And she analyzed all these data sets and combined with socioeconomic data sets. And they found that a lot of potential human health impacts due to pollution in some of the areas. I encourage you to, I'm gonna share the slides to see this study, because it's very interesting, and the study is keep going, and with new urban data and with new satellites, you know, that we launched recently, Tempo, which is gonna bring us a lot of information related to air quality. And we also have different ROSA solicitation. ROSAs is the funding mechanism that NASA use. And in the RNA program, we have an environmental and climate justice using Earth observation solicitations. They're gonna select, they are in the final process to selecting five projects, 2 million per year each project for 3 years, just to study environmental and climate justice. And also we have the Earth Action Program that they also have an equity and environmental justice program, and with the goal to advance progress on equity and environmental justice domestically through better understanding of community needs and increased use of earth science, geospatial, and socioeconomic information. As you can see, there's a lot of community impact directly and indirectly, and they have 39 new projects that are across the United States to study environmental justice issues. And as part of the Earth Action, they also have a training, RSET, and you're gonna be learning about that in this workshop. But I wanna highlight that they have a new training related to satellite data for air quality, environmental justice, and equity applications. And they also have the Develop program, which also have a lot of environmental justice studies as part of this this program that is more like capacity building and a direct connection with the community. And that's all that I have. I hope that I just like summarize what we are doing at the Earth Science Division related to equity and environmental justice. I'm gonna be here for questions. If you have any questions, let me know. And I'm gonna be dropping in the chat some of the links that I just referred to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shaitza, for sharing with us today. And I do encourage everyone to put questions in either the chat or, again, the participant guide that we will be monitoring. We will get all of those to her to make sure that she can get back to you on those topics. All right, so thank you for unsharing your screen already. I am going to briefly introduce our team. Let me just pull up our slides. Okay, great. All right, so I want to just take a moment to introduce you to our facilitation team from Old Dominion University and Virginia Tech. Their names and pictures are included here. They will introduce themselves in the breakout sessions. I also want to thank our IT team and rotating student note takers, who, although not pictured, are much appreciated and will give a brief introduction of their name and affiliation in the breakout sessions as well. I want to give just a brief reminder of the ground rules for our workshops. Facilitators will be in the main session and breakout rooms to ensure that things run smoothly. If there are any technical issues, questions, or comments for us, the speakers, or each other, please place those in the Google Doc. We will be monitoring that throughout the session. Sessions will be recorded and notes will be taken during discussions. Comments will not be attributed to any one person in any products distributed after these workshops take place. Names will be removed. Keep in mind that there are no right or wrong answers. We are here to learn from you as much as we are here to present information to you. We welcome you to share your experiences accessing and using NASA data, including your successes, frustrations, and your ideas for improvement throughout the workshop, from the smallest thing to the big ticket items. The registration includes guidelines about civility, acceptable language, privilege, inclusivity, etc., that we will adhere to. Please review those as needed. If you have not yet been able to arrange to receive the continuing education credits available through APA, CFPM, GISP, or others, please let us know how we may assist you with that. So in the interest of getting to break the ice and figure out who you have on this call with you, we're going to do some introductions. We are going to have a very brief 5-minute breakout session right now for you to meet the individuals in your groups for today. Timing reminders will be sent to all sessions periodically. If you have difficulty getting into your group or find that you need to change groups, please return to the main room for our IT team to assist you. Please use the WebEx landing page link that you used to get here today. Blake is going to post that again for us in the chat now so that you can find it. And I do suggest again that you bookmark that for your use throughout the workshop. All right, so I'm going to take this screen share down and you're going to go into your breakouts. All right, I think we have a few more people still joining us, but in the interest of staying on time and respecting all of your interests in getting through our exciting content, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome you back to the main room. Our speakers are going to be time limited. We will be sending reminders to our speakers both in the chat and on the screen as they approach 5, 2, 1, and 0 minutes before I unfortunately have to start talking over them to keep us on track with our time. So our first set of speakers have about 15 minutes each to share their presentations with us. Our next set of speakers are Elizabeth Joyner and Leah Schweitzer. They will demonstrate Earth data, NASA's GIS data portal, and NASA's Open Data Portal. Elizabeth Joyner works with the Earth Science Data Systems Program Communications team as the community coordinator and works across the program to promote the use of NASA data and resources with end users. Leah Schweitzer leads the NASA Earth Science Data Systems Geographic Information Systems team, EGIST, which enables the appropriate use in adoption of GIS technology in support of Earth science research and applied science for Earth observing systems data and information systems data. So thank you. You've already started sharing your screen. I appreciate that. Get started when you're ready. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, we don't have your audio yet.
Thank you. All right, there we go. Just got to figure that out. I have 30 minutes. Is that right? Yes. Okay. Perfect.
So you both have about 30 minutes.
Oh, we both. Okay. Well, then I will talk very fast, which will be difficult for a southern gal like myself. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Hutton, Dr. McLeod, additional Unbound presenters and planners, and esteemed participants. I'm Elizabeth Joyner, Community Coordinator of NASA's Earth Science Data Systems, and I have some things that will increase our participation. So I'm not going to talk at you this whole time for 15 minutes. I want to hear from you. And so I am testing out some new slides, and so I'm fingers and toes are crossed that this will work. I do want to mention that all of my materials are on Zenodo, have a DOI, so you will be able to access those, and I'm going to show you here in a second. So you feel free to use the QR code here to access those right now. And also I am enabling the Mentimeter survey software, so you will be able to put thumbs up or different kinds of emojis and give us your thoughts and comments as I present. So here we go. So let's hear from you. So if you would take your device, and you can also join through the URL at the top, or it's also here on the left-hand side, whichever is comfortable for you. I'll give you about, let's say 10 seconds or so if you can type quickly. Let's join this Mentimeter. When you're finished and you have it up, if you can give me a thumbs up. I see 6, 7. Oh, you guys are so good. Oh my gosh, look at that. It jumped to 18. Perfect. Dr. Hutton, how many people do we have logged in at this time into the general session? I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. 3.
I'm going to take that 5 seconds to get you an answer.
Oh, that's okay. So I'm just trying to figure out how many people we have. I'm going to move forward, and just note that this URL will be presented at the top for most of the slides.
We have 30.
Perfect. Okay, so we're getting close. Okay, so how do you feel today about using NASA Earth data for your research or application? I have here a range from empowered and committed, comfortable, connected, accepted, curious, indifferent, insecure, maybe a little intimidated, frustrated, or angry. Hopefully we don't have any on the anger side, but if you are, please be honest. And I have 13 people. Would love to hear from more. If you're sitting in between one, or maybe you felt this range of emotion throughout your data science experience, pick one that is most common to you. All right, I'm going to give you about another 5 seconds. Curious. All right. Come on, this is your time. All right, cool. All right, we have some that are one that is empowered and committed. Hopefully, we're going to move you more to that direction as we move through the Unbound. I see here that we have a couple of insecure users, and that's okay. We welcome all of you, and I'm going to go ahead and move forward. All right. So Stinger did a much better job of articulating the vision and the goals, but these, in terms of what you see here, are really my vision and the goal in terms of a community coordinator, how I have worked in the past and working hopefully in the present to help you employ our data for research, tool development, app development, things like that, as well as in your decision making. And then extend the impact of our data by making it more accessible and usable in the context of your user community. And something that Jaitza mentioned earlier was about the other Unbound workshops. So I want to tell you the information that your Unbound team are gathering from you, they will be put into a report that they give to NASA. And I want to tell you that those experiences and that wish list and those things actually come to us, and we act on those. And I wanted to mention we have resources like these Pathfinders that I'm going to demo for you today. I personally took the Unbound Air Quality Report from ESIP that they provided this spring, and I updated our Air Quality Data Pathfinder to make it more easier to use. So I wanted to mention to you that your experiences and the work that you're doing now is really important. All right. So what is the is this an ideal user journey? I'm not sure. So typically they start the same. We're looking to find data, select those data. Okay, maybe those data aren't what we're actually looking for. So we go back to finding data, selecting the data. Okay, this looks better. We try to apply those data. Can't apply those data. We go back to selecting different data. Those really aren't it at all. We're going back to finding data, and then some people might even give up. And we're hoping that you won't. Okay, so if that is something that is familiar to you, give me a thumbs up. We already have 3 people that have given us the thumbs up. If you've experienced something like that, okay, Caitlin just raised her hand. That's all good. Use the emojis that are whatever is most convenient to you. We understand this, and we're here to support you. And we really are blessed to have this team with Dr. Hutton and Dr. McLeod and the others and Dr. Stout. So here we are. So I wanted to mention that NASA Earth Data is here to help. And so ways that we have helped others and continue to iterate our processes are through the access part, whether it be with Earth Data login, Earth Data forums, making our tools like Earth Data Search, Worldview, Giovanni, as Jaitza mentioned, putting our data into the cloud. This is all an effort to help ease those access issues. We also provide a variety of different learn materials. So these include data recipes, tutorials, webinars, trainings. You're going to hear later today about RSET, which is an incredibly powerful training program. And we also have resources that are designed with the end user. So whether they be for researchers or data scientists, GIS specialists, we have a variety of different tools, and we're trying to make them better for the end user. We also provide opportunities for you to explore our data as well as to become inspired by how you might use these data in your own application. And so our program has data user profiles, data chats. We also highlight some of the incredible work that's done out of the applied sciences via articles and projects that you can connect with. And just as Jayitza mentioned earlier, we have opportunities for you to become committed to using NASA data through these competitive programs like ROSES and others that Jayitza mentioned. One of the things that I'm going to highlight for you in a moment are our data pathfinders, which really help to do a good job in those top 3 tiers. Our data pathfinders, we have about 16 of them, and we are constantly updating and iterating these based on user feedback like Unbound. But in terms of the relationship to today's topic for coastal management, we have a few here that relate, but we're really going to focus on the floods one today. But of course, there's tropical cyclones, sea level change, water quality, even agriculture and water resources. And you might even be able to make a case that that several of these other data pathfinders are also related to the topic of coastal management. But one of the things that I want to mention is that we understand that data users are not all created equal. We understand that based on your training, your schooling, on-the-job training, that we all come to NASA data with different experiences and knowledge. So one of the things that I would like to kind of explore with you based on user feedback that we've identified in the past is that based on our experience, our skill and knowledge about using data, not all jobs really depend upon you to have, whether it be data dexterity, where you can pull in a variety of different tools, you can reformat, you can do all, really advanced levels of working with our data, or you might sit on that other side, whereas data fluency, where you're really looking to gain insights, you're looking to look for patterns and relationships. And so one of the things that I wanted to mention to you today is that within these data fluency and data dexterity parts of this pyramid here, I want to show you that some of the tools that you're going to interact with, you're going to see in our data pathfinders, help the different data users to access and work with our data. And so that data fluency part was marked with that green star in our data pathfinders, and really across some of the resources that our program makes available. You're going to see and probably explore NASA Worldview, Giovanni perhaps, and certainly Earth Data Search. And so, and we scaffold these different tools to help a variety of different end users. So you might say, as you're getting into the weeds, like I like to say, of our pathfinders, that is intentional to help open and make our data accessible to a variety of different end users. And I want to mention, and it's kind of hard to see this down at the bottom on the x-axis, as we move from left to right, really the advanced skills and knowledge that one needs to work seamlessly within our program, those increase. And then the scientific value of how you might incorporate these data into your research also increases along the y-axis as you move up. So I do also want to say that within the right-hand side of Earth Data Search, you're going to be able to explore almost all of NASA's data holdings. There are a couple of different programs and models, GMAO and some others that are not incorporated to my knowledge within this, but you are going to be able to access all levels of our data from 1 to 4. You will be able to access all the different parameters within the Earth system. So just as I believe Stinger was mentioning how we would love for you to access data that maybe were intentionally designed for the stakeholders of a particular mission, but also see if there's application for your research that maybe weren't necessarily thought about at the onset. And then I wanted to also include for you something that if you feel like you're getting ahead of your skis, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not, not sure what to do with these data, or I have questions about these data, or I have a particular parameter in mind, I would love to hear from a NASA subject matter expert. We have something called Earth Data Forum. An Earth Data Forum is searchable, it's browsable by topic, and I believe within 48 hours of posting a question into the forum, you're going to hear from a subject matter expert from a particular distributed active archive center, which is where our data are housed, and you'll be able to get feedback pretty soon. We have a variety of different resources to help you if you're not sure about how to post a question or browse. We have some resources available to you. All right, so I want to now, let's see here, go into our Data Pathfinder, and let me see if you can see this. All right. We have, I'm going to put here in this Google Doc, I have included all the various links that Leah and I will present today and more related to floods, and this will be accessible to you. I understand from Dr. Stout that she's going to pull these into a variety, a format that includes other presentations and materials, so this is something that you will have access to. But I want to show you quickly here how we get to the Data Pathfinder. Data Pathfinders are available from our homepage, which looks like this. We have a variety of topics to help you get started with data. So data up here on the top right, to topics, to learn, even though those backgrounders, okay, the backgrounders that Jaitza mentioned earlier, and other resources. So I'm going to go to Learn here, go to Data Pathfinders, scrolling down to this particular one that I'm going to demo for you is floods. And what we have prepared for you today is information on who this Pathfinder is for, how to get started with the data with logging in to Earth Data Login, and also the forum is linked right here. I also have prepared for you links to how to find data, and I'll get to that in just a second. But we also have quick tools that you can access down below with some guides. All right, so I'm going to close that up. But the Floods Pathfinder is divided into 3 sections: pre-event, flood inundation, as well as human dimensions. And so I'm going to open the pre-event data. And I'm going to zoom in here so you can see that a little bit better. For pre-event assessments, we have precipitation, soil moisture, snow and snow water equivalent, runoff, as well as topography data. Under each of those, you will see that we have a data table here that is linked to commonly used data sets. And this does not cover all the data sets that NASA has available, but these are commonly used ones. You can click on here and it'll take you directly to those data. What I mentioned earlier about NASA Worldview, that's really for people who are looking for quick insights. We also have browse tools and resources that different missions have prepared, and I have embedded those as they are available. And then we also have the research quality data products that are located directly in Earth data search. And where near real-time data are available through LANCE, I've also included those as well. And so know that each of these tier 2 parameters all are laid out the same way. And we also have within each section tutorials, data visualizations, GIS ready tools and tutorials, data access tools, customizing tools. And then if you're a programmer, we also have Jupyter notebooks, we have different things like that, special scripts, etc., that are available to you just right before the data are available. And let's see, I have one last slide. I would love to connect with you. So if you have any questions, I may or may not be able to answer them directly, but I know a lot of really smart people at NASA who can. And find me on LinkedIn. Let's connect. And we have an Earth Data newsletter so you can keep up with what's going on. And we also have a variety of different social media accounts that we present information to on a weekly basis. So with that, I would like to hand it off to Leah, and I will stop sharing.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to just jump right in here. So good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Leah Schweizer. I am with the Earth Science Data Systems GIS team. My content will not be as fun and interactive as Elizabeth was. She always does a great job at engaging participants, but what I do hope is that I can show you some starting points and some ways to enable some of those tools and data products that Elizabeth showcased, and we'll also kind of highlight some of the inputs that Dr. Yates and Luna Cruz touched on earlier with regards to the socioeconomic impacts related to some of the environmental science aspects of the data that we'll be looking at. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in. Actually, for the sake of demoing, I'm going to stop my video so I preserve as much bandwidth as possible and just jump right in here. Okay, can I get a thumbs up? Do you all can see my screen okay? Great. Okay, so we're going to pick right up for where Elizabeth left off, and that is within the Floods Data Pathfinder and within the pre-event assessment, where she showed us where we have this great table that really highlights all the different data products that are available to us. I'm going to just jump into one particular data product, again, just to kind of show you some workflows that bring you to different tools where we can visualize and access the content. So for precipitation, I'm going to just choose the GPM iMerge data product. This is from our precipitation measurement mission. It has early and late runs that show you precipitation globally roughly every 3 hours. They actually are collected every 30 minutes, but it's available to you. And we're going to look at it through NASA Worldview. I have all of these pre-programmed in case technology decided to not cooperate. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump to that. But if you click on this link here, we're going to bring you to Worldview. So Worldview is a browser-based imagery visualization application. You can see that it is just running on a browser. You don't need to download anything or have any additional software or content. And this is a great way to explore some of the imagery available through NASA's Earth fleet. It does show a very wide variety of NASA content that we'll look at in just a moment. And the great thing is that this data is curated and processed for optimal viewing. It also has enhanced capability. So it's not just simply looking at data. You do have some additional features that we'll showcase today. Many of the available imagery layers are updated within 3 hours of observation. So essentially showing you what the entire Earth looks like right now. Additionally, all the underlying imagery is available as time-enabled OGC web mapping services. So you can pull all this content into your tool of choice. If you want to leverage this content in your GIS client, you can do so via the OGC web mapping service. One important point is that this is not representative of all of our data. It is roughly just a subset. It's only about 1,000 different data products, but it's still quite a bit. And it also, again, as I mentioned, is customized for viewing. So it's not necessarily what you're going to see if you go and download the raw data files, but we'll touch on that a little bit more later. So from the Pathfinder, if you're brought into Worldview, you can see that this precipitation iMerge was already preloaded. So there's a lot going on this interface. If you're a new user to Worldview, you'll often be presented with some basic getting started and exploration options here. This is a really great way for you to jump into this application and kind of look at a particular story, and it'll walk you through and show you exactly what to click, how to work through a particular event, just to kind of highlight some of the capabilities and get you familiar with all the different buttons you see here. So the one cool thing about Worldview is that you can add and layer a lot of different content. And so if you're a GIS person like myself, that's the beauty of being able to visualize different data together. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the add data layers. And here you can see that data has been thematically curated and presented to you in a way that is a lot easier to digest. It's not as overwhelming because we're looking at particular topics. So you have science disciplines, if you know exactly what you're coming in here to study, but you also have other events that just kind of make sense to an average user. These are hazards and disasters that anyone can relate to. So again, kind of focusing on that thematic area of floods, you're now presented with a subset of data in these subsets of thematic areas within floods. So we have the precipitation already loaded, but we're also going to look at the human dimension because that is critically important when looking at any sort of hazard or disaster around the globe. We have one particular data center, the Socioeconomic Data and Application Center, or CDAC, which provides a lot of human dimension data. So what we want to do now is add some additional content to this precipitation data product. We're going to look at impervious surface percentages. We're going to look at population density. And we're also going to look at urban rural extents below 10 meters of elevation. One important note here is that on the right side, you'll see the data products highlighted in a very quick summary. This is important because sometimes the data is not easily understandable based on the name of the data product. So this gives you a quick glimpse into what the data is going to show you, as well as the temporal coverage. Not all data is created equally. We have a lot of data and it's not all consistent. A lot of it is dependent on our mission when the satellite was covering. So it's important to kind of look through here if you want to just get a basic understanding of what you're adding into your map. But hopefully you can see that as I was clicking on those layers, they're already showcased in the map view below. So now that we have our layers here on the left pane, you can click on and off if you want to take things out of view. And the important thing is that you have all of this great data collected from many years. And so the great thing about NASA's Earth fleet is that a lot of our data products go back decades, and so provides a great historical perspective of the Earth systems. So we're going to look at a particular time of interest. It's actually already pre-configured here, but you can kind of migrate through just clicking on the temporal bar below. And we're going to look at Hurricane Ida, which came through roughly August 28th through September 1st of 2021. So here is a very easy way that you can just enable what you're looking at on this view to scroll through time. You also can adjust the order of which you see your content. So if you want to see something above one another, it's just a quick and drag and drop. You also can look at the legend. So one thing that's of interest is that if you highlight, if you can kind of look at my mouse, you can highlight and see if I look at a particular color on the legend to your left, you'll kind of see that value reflected. So you can kind of interact and kind of understand what these values are showing you on the screen here. The other cool thing is that you can search for places around the globe. All of our data products are globally enabled, so you do have coverage in lots of different spaces, which is very useful for our international communities. And you also have the option to create and export an animated GIF. So this is of interest if you want to look at a particular area and you want to show the change over time. You can also take a snapshot. If you find a particular image subset that you are interested in, you can quickly create a snapshot and save that snapshot as a JPEG, GeoTIFF, or KMZ. This allows you to just take exactly what you're seeing and not having to download the entire data file or do that subsetting or processing on your other end. If you're looking for a quick visual, you can quickly take that snapshot and export it. Going back to the GIFs, we're going to go ahead and look at this Hurricane Ida make landfall and go up through the Northeast. So by clicking on this little animation bar, you'll kind of see that you can choose to animate, and you can choose how many increments you want to go through. And you can choose the time in which it starts and which it ends. So this is another fun way to just kind of create a visualization going through time. And as you can see, just looking at the precipitation, how Hurricane Ida comes in and makes landfall, and then the trajectory goes through the Northeast. You can also export this GIF so that you can embed that into any of your additional tools or presentations. Another cool feature is being able to do a comparison. So comparisons are a great way to look at data together. And you have two different options for running a comparison. So as you followed, I probably or maybe went through too quickly. If you start the comparison, you have an option of choosing A and B, and those can be set at different times or the same time in different products. So for example, if we wanted to look at just impervious surfaces on one, and on the other one, we can look at I'm going to pull in the population density. You can kind of use the swipe tool to just quickly see a visual comparison of the data products side by side. You also have the option to do a spyglass tool. So if you want to see what things look like underneath that layer, you can do so. And again, if you wanted to just simply look at it over time, you can set these bars to be, let's say, August 28th or 29th, and then we'll run this one and we'll be August 27th, and we'll look at precipitation. You can kind of see precipitation across the different dates and times. Now, the cool thing here is that in addition to the comparison tool, if you are finally able to see exactly what you want and need, we're working to enable these smart handoffs. And this is a way to get you to the data, because again, you're kind of limited to what you're doing here and that it's just a visualization tool. If you want to go and actually download the content, you're going to go back into that Earth Data Search tool, which we'll look at in just a second. I do want to note that this is a work in progress, so this is not enabled for every single data product. So if you go in here, you might not have the exact same user experience, but we're working on it. We just have a lot of data to sift through. But this is something that is in the works that gets you to the next step of the process where you might want to go and download the data. So by clicking on, let's say, the precipitation data, you're now going to see that you have the option to set an area of interest, because again, you just want to look at a particular date and time. And you can just draw your bounding box, and you can kind of see that the different granules will show you what's available for your date in this particular area of interest. You can then click on the button to go download via Earth Data Search, and it gives you some additional information before doing the smart handoff. I already have that set up, so I'm not going to click continue just for the sake of time for getting it preloaded. So Earth Data Search is our enterprise data repository, which has all of our collections that are readily available for free and open to the public. So Earth Data Search provides the means for data discovery, filtering, visualization, and then data access across all of our data holdings. That includes more than 33,000 Earth observation data collections, and it also provides the option to connect to some of the data products in the cloud. One of the other pieces of feedback we've received is that we hear that users definitely want more ways to customize that data output. And so we're working on some of the customizable options. We have over 860 collections that now can be customized. But as you can see from the smart handoff, it already carried over our spatial and temporal settings. This is only going to be looking at that same precipitation data for the same date and time. You're then presented with options to look at and view and download the different data files. I'm not going to go in too much here because these are very large files, and they're typically difficult to work with if you're not a hardcore earth science user that regularly interacts with HDF or NetCDF5 files. So I'm not going to go through that, but it does allow you the option to just choose what you want to download. And when you have the customized options, oh, sorry, it's going to ask me to redirect my Earth Data login. So I think that came across in some of the instructions earlier. So Earth Data logins, while this is working, I will note that these are freely and openly available to the public, but they are required when you're going to be doing any downloads. So you'll be prompted to sign in if you get to this step to get the data to your account. As I mentioned before, we're working to customize a lot more of our data products. This one in particular does not have customization options, but you will see that for over 860 other collections. Again, once you get to the point where you're ready to download the data, you can go ahead and do so, and it'll prompt you to choose your options, and then you'll be brought to a page where you can click on and get to your HDF5 files. The other good here is that it will save your downloads, so you don't have to worry about if you get disconnected or you forget where you were. You can save projects, but you can also then download, go back to your download history and get all the data products that you chose. So we're not going to spend too much time there either, because what I really wanted to talk about today is how we are trying to better interact with and serve our GIS user community. Because over, let's see, the last 8 years, we've have annual customer satisfaction surveys where everyone continues to tell us that they want more data available through GIS. This is an easier way to interact with the data. And so what we've done is enabled an enterprise Earth Data GIS where we're starting to take a lot of those data products and make them readily available to the GIS user community. So this prevents you from having to do the wrangling of the data files. It prevents you from having to do the massive bulk downloads, and it prevents you from having to do a lot of the processing and pre-work to even get the data ready to use. We know that that's a huge challenge for our users, and so we want to meet the needs of the large GIS user community that continues to grow by bringing them into this repository, which has not only ArcGIS image services, but OGC compliant raster and geospatial services freely and openly available to the public. So if you log into this, or actually, sorry, no login needed. If you hit our homepage, it's just gis.earthdata.nasa.gov, you'll see that we have featured layers, and you'll see that the iMerge, that GPM precipitation layer is right here. We have a lot of our CDAC data, so not all of these are shown. This is just a snapshot. And we also have featured applications and web maps. So one of our applications is similar to the Data Pathfinders, where we have a collection of thematic-based content that is, again, showing you GIS-ready data in particular thematic areas. And the great thing about these is that they provide you an interactive way to understand what's available to you specific to this thematic area, all geared towards the GIS user community. So again, looking at one particular to the coastal issues, I have opened the tropical storms story map. And the cool thing about story maps is it provides you a little bit of narration and a little bit of context to the data, as well as providing you actual access to data content. So you'll see here that we have configured web map applications where you can interact and turn things on and off. You also have access to the underlying services, so it's showing you exactly what we have if you want to just go in and grab those services yourself and utilize them in your tools. It also highlights some of the content that we have from our disasters applications area. This is showing you some just examples that this disasters program does related to our Black Marble data product, which shows you essentially night lights. So before and after a hurricane, actually, again, Hurricane Ida. And so it's just a great way to kind of get familiar with what data products are out there and available to you. So the image services are the big thing that we're trying to push through this enterprise effort. And the beauty of these image services is that it allows you access to the underlying content. So by looking at one particular example, the GPM iMerge, you'll see that we have the image service URL. So not only can you open and use this in a standard web mapping viewer that you might be familiar with if you're an ArcGIS user, but you can also use the REST endpoint. We have a bunch of different data products out here. I just highlighted a few that are relevant. If you just searched within our Earth Data portal, you'd see various topics show up and a lot of different content visualizations available. But again, looking at the URLs, let me pull one up here. You can access these as REST endpoints. And the beauty of these REST endpoints, oh, sorry, I have the wrong one open. The beauty of these REST endpoints is that you can enable these in all different clients. You also have the option to look at them as a JSON, a WMS, or WCS. So again, they're freely and openly available, but it's not limited to just ArcGIS users. You do have the option for these open source endpoints, as well as enabling them through browser-based tools. A lot of them also have supported operations. So if you're a programmer, you can hit these REST endpoints and leverage them to do things like computing histograms, exporting images, etc. So within these web maps, you'll be able to customize what you're looking at within these different data products. And so again, if you're a GIS user, you'll be familiar with what I'm showing you here, which is just again, I'm not logged in, it's just a browser-based image where you can look at and explore the data. So this is just one example where there's a lot of different data parameters available to you, where you can then choose what you want to show on the map, and it'll dynamically update. You'll also see that, again, the underlying content is available to you, so you're not limited to just an image. The cool thing about these is that you can then bring them into your desktop tool of choice. So for example, we have the QGIS application open, and we also have ArcGIS, where you can use those same endpoints and add data from a path and just copy and paste here. You can also connect directly to that EGIS server to hit all of our content by loading in a new ArcGIS server connection within ArcGIS Pro. I have some of that loaded here, where we have our the GIB service, which is what populates Worldview. So here you have all that same content that's readily available. You don't have to use Worldview if you want to look at it in a tool that you're most familiar with and that you're already using to do your science. You have the population density, you have precipitation, you have all that great content, but it's at your fingertips in a tool that you're familiar with. Similarly, with the EGIS content, Earth Data GIS, we have those services that are just now out, and those are also available to connect to and bring into a web map product. So what I'm showing here is just, again, another way to browse the content, looking at the different services that you have. You also have options here to look at the data as multidimensional. So a lot of our content is very comprehensive. We have a lot of different data packaged together. And so this multidimensional toolbar is actually available even though you're looking at a service. So again, the beauty of these services, especially if you're an ArcGIS user, is that you do have that underlying content to where you can look at these raster functions and actually employ them against your service. So I have not downloaded any content. I have simply looked at the different data services, brought them in, and then have been able to look at different ways to process them, run analysis, or create charts just based on the service endpoint. So here I have one of the data products that is available through our socioeconomic data center, and that is the lower elevation coastal zone data product. And this shows you where elevation points are at 5 meters and 10 meters, and then at 31 meters. So this is really interesting to look at the different coastal zones and where they might be impacted from future sea level rise. Our socioeconomic data center also has high resolution settlement data. So this is looking at where there's human settlement and population located across the globe. This one might take a little bit more time to draw here, so I try to get it loaded beforehand, but it might take a second. I know we're running low on time, so I apologize. I'm going a little fast here. But the best thing I want to showcase is just the fact that this is a service. They're time enabled. I have not had to download anything, but I am still able to layer things together. I'm still able to walk through time and show how things change over the course of days, weeks, months, or years, depending on what you're interested in. You're still able to do raster functions, and you're able to do that all within the client that you're used to working with. Those same endpoints, again, I touched on QGIS, but you can access those. You can just simply connect to them as a WMS or a REST endpoint, And again, that allows you to look at the same content within the tool or client of your choice and work with them however you are most familiar, and then bring in your own time, bring in your own content. The other thing I wanted to end with is that we hear, especially through these Unbound workshops, is that, you know, everyone wants to find data through Living Atlas. Like, yes, we have our own great things at NASA, but not everyone knows to go to NASA. No one's ever heard of Earth Data Search. No one's ever heard of Worldview. They want to go to Living Atlas because it's GIS ready content. So Esri's done a great job at already taking and curating a lot of our content, but we're trying to also have a bigger presence here by creating a NASA Earth Data account where we're pushing as much of this content into Living Atlas so that you can go and grab and use a lot of these different image services, web maps, and apps. And again, the discovery platform that you're used to working with. So there's more coming. Everything I showed you is relatively new. So I will pause there, and I'll also let you know that anything and everything I showed you will be available in the resource document that will be shared, and it'll also be part of our main GIS page where you'll get access to all the different content that I just showed you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leah. And thank you both, Elizabeth and Leah, for sharing with us today. And thank you for already unsharing your screen. You're very efficient. Any unanswered questions can go in the Google Doc or go in the chat, and we will get those to Elizabeth and Leah so that they can respond to you later. And again, all the presentations from today will be shared with you after the meeting. So we would like to take a couple of minutes to capture your initial reflections on the presentations. Please use the links provided in the participant guide and posted in the chat by Blake. Click on the plus sign to add a comment under a speaker's name. And since you don't see a plus sign right now, unless you've already clicked on that link, I'm going to bring it up just to do a quick demo for you. So this is our reflection document. And what we're asking you to do is next to the speaker to give us some input. And so there's a couple ways that you can do this. If you double click anywhere, it will pop up this lovely box, and you put in a subject, which could be speaker 1 or Elizabeth or Leah or whatever you want to title it, and then you write something about that presentation that you saw, and it will post itself right wherever you clicked it. All right, so I'm going to stop share and hope that you find that document, which again, the link for is in the chat. While you're making these comments, some things to prompt you. This is an open-ended activity, so really any thoughts you want to share are welcome, good or bad. These comments are anonymous when you post them in there. We're particularly interested in your ideas for implementing these resources in your own work. Do you think you will use these applications in your work, or how might these applications expand your work? And I see a few of you in that document. So we're going to have just about a minute here. And that document will remain open for the rest of the day. So if things occur to you, then you can go ahead and add those at your convenience.
If you don't mind, I'll chime in while everybody's typing. You know, we pack so much good stuff into this session, it creates this natural time crunch. So I really appreciate you guys trying to fit your comments in. And as Nicole said, these Padlets are going to remain open not just today, but tonight and on through the session. And I would encourage you all to reflect well past today's session and just go back to these Padlets and drop little comments in, because we know there were too many good things to choose from with Leah and Elizabeth and the others, and certainly Stinger and Jaitza as well. And I think we have, Sean this afternoon, or Sean next. So thank you again for everyone for presenting and sort of letting us sardine you into this really excellent discussion. And I see all the comments popping up. Keep them coming. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right, and we will return to that document after our next presentation. Okay. just move this forward without it being in SlideShare mode for a moment. So our next speaker has a 15-minute presentation slot. And at this time, Sean McCartney will be sharing with us about RSET. I'm going to go ahead and take my screen share down so that Sean can put screen share up. All right, so Sean is a senior scientific analyst working with NASA's Applied Sciences program at Goddard Space Flight Center. He currently supports NASA's Applied Remote Sensing Training, RSET, program as a trainer in the water resources and disaster applications areas. He is also the lead science advisor for the Develop program at Goddard Space Flight Center. And Sean, if you will please go ahead and share your screen. Thank you. And we are ready when you are. I'll give you a time reminder at 5, 2, and 1 minute.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much, Nicole. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank the entire Unbound project for inviting RSET to this workshop. I want to point out that RSET's objectives align very nicely with Unbound in the sense that we are both broadening the impact of NASA data and specifically applications of NASA data by making the data more accessible and usable in the context of specific user communities. So for those that might not be as familiar, I'm going to give kind of a broad general overview of Earth science and then drill down into where RSET fits within this, the bureaucracy of NASA as we think about it. You know, I talked a lot to a lot of friends, and when I mentioned to them exactly what I do within NASA, they're actually quite surprised to know that, or to learn that NASA has a division and an emphasis entirely focused on Earth science. So I think it behooves many of us to educate and inform those that might not be as familiar with that. And so Earth Science Division, what we do is we use global observations from the space, from aerial platforms, from sea-based platforms, as well as on land, to help us better understand our planet's interconnected systems. Now, NASA's Earth Science develops, launches, and operates NASA's fleet of over 20 Earth-observing satellites and instruments. The Earth Science Division helps develop and test scientific technologies, support research that advances knowledge of Earth, and encourages innovative and practical uses of Earth observations and scientific knowledge. Now, the Applied Sciences program is one of the programs within the Earth Science Division. The Applied Sciences program helps partners use NASA's unique view, excuse me, from space to address real-world issues. The Applied Sciences program works with individuals and institutions worldwide to inform decision-making for environment, food, water, health and safety, to enhance the quality of life and strengthen our economy. NASA's Applied Sciences builds meaningful partnerships with government, industry, and nonprofits to power innovative projects that use data from NASA's Earth-observing satellites to make life better here on our own planet. So within the Applied Sciences program, we have the Capacity Building Program. This is which RSET fits nicely into. The program is composed of unique ways to connect with unique users and includes the Develop program, the Surveyor program, RSET, as well as the Indigenous Peoples Initiative and the Equity Environmental Justice, as well as prizes and challenges. The Capacity Building Program provides individuals and institutions with workforce development, training activities, which I'll be speaking to you more specifically when I speak to RSET, as well as collaborative projects to strengthen understanding of Earth observations and expand their use around the world. So to learn more about NASA's Applied Sciences, I've provided a link to the Earth Science Applications Guidebook. I think these slides will be shared with everybody, so you should have access to that. This is an interactive guide on how to translate scientific knowledge into shareable knowledge. And I hope those interested will explore this guidebook following this workshop. I'm not going to go into too much more depth on it now. We've also included a link to the Earth Data Pathfinders, which Elizabeth did such a terrific job demonstrating earlier. So I'm not going to belabor this too much, besides to say that I am a huge fan of Earth Data Pathfinders. I point so many people through RSET trainings, as well as just through, if somebody reaches out to me and maybe we have not yet done an RSET training on maybe a specific application within that, or if they just want to have a first stop shop to gain access to the data sets and maybe some more context of what those data sets might be able to do, I always point people to these data pathfinders. So big hats off to Elizabeth's presentation as well as Leah's earlier, sort of demonstrating a lot of this. So now specifically to the program in which I am part of, this is one of the hats that I wear within NASA's Applied Sciences. This is the Applied Remote Sensing Training Program, or RSET. So RSET is a training program that empowers the global community through remote sensing training. All of the trainings that we do take publicly available, freely available data sets, as well as using open source and open access software to be able to target very specific applications for the data sets. So these could be platforms such as Google Earth Engine, which is an open access platform. It could be QGIS, which is an open source GIS software. This could be using different scripting languages such as Python or R, using something as like a Jupyter notebook to be able to share different code targeting very specific applications, which you can see on the right of the slide. These are the thematic areas in which RSET does different trainings, starting with disasters. We also have plenty of trainings on agriculture for crop monitoring, crop health. We have a focus on ecological conservation. So for those that might be interested, I know that this is very much in context of coastal issues and coastal management, but we do have plenty on even actually some of the ecological conservation projects do target mangrove ecosystems. So we do have even within that application area, things targeting coastal environments. Water resources, everything from water quantity, water quality. And then we also have one of the newer application areas is climate and resilience. And we have had plenty of trainings, and we actually, starting tomorrow, are going to having another climate focused training as well. And so these target everything from climate projections, the theory behind climate change. We've had trainings on CO2 monitoring, methane monitoring, et cetera. So we do hope that you'll check out some of those trainings. And then we also have another application area focused entirely on health and air quality. All of these trainings are cost-free, and they only require you to have a reliable internet connection so that you'll be able to join them. So why do we do trainings? Well, as I think it was, I forget who was, maybe it was George alluded to it earlier, maybe it was Elizabeth, but saying a lot of times when we talk with different practitioners, these could be people in all different branches of government, in academia, a lot of the times it's just mentioning the fact they don't even know where to go to start to get the data to answer some of the questions that they're having. And these are all focused on environment. It could be water quality, it could be air quality, et cetera. So a lot of the times we'll start our different trainings just building awareness. What are the data sets? Where can you get them? Leah and Elizabeth did a fantastic job explaining how you can use, the Earth Data Viewer and NASA Earth Data. But in our trainings, we do heavily focus on Earth Data and some of these different platforms, but we also use platforms such as Earth Engine, which has already ingested a whole lot of the different data sets and model data that one might use for targeting specific applications for air quality monitoring, agricultural monitoring, et cetera. So just building awareness on what the data sets are, how one can use them, and then from there, once you know where to get the data and how you can use it, then we start building appreciation. So we'll start using case studies of maybe it's agricultural monitoring, or maybe it's water quality monitoring in freshwater lakes anywhere on the planet. And so we start building appreciation how one can use these data sets, the power of getting the data sets and being able to target them for specific applications. And then hopefully once one has an appreciation, that next level of awareness is really of the appetite in wanting to use that and seeing the value of using that for their own work or for their own research. And then finally, ideally, what we'd like to do, this is RSET's end-all goal, is to have actual adoption of not only remote sensing data, but also model data. And again, this is all publicly, freely available, and then adopt that into a decision-making process. If this is a ministry of government in Europe or in Asia or in Africa or in South America, it could be here in the United States. So adopting that and using that in their workflow to better address some of these environmental questions and challenges that we're all facing, specifically, as we can say, with coastal issues, the problems that we're experiencing, have been experiencing, and will continue. They're not going to be going away anytime soon. So that is why we lead these trainings. Again, they're all freely available, and I will go to the next slide. So the trainings are typically online, but we also do in-person trainings. We typically do roughly 2 to 3 in-person trainings a year. That's a fiscal year, but we do primarily online trainings. We have generally between 1,000 to 2,000 people taking each of these trainings in the application areas that I alluded to earlier. They could be live trainings. So most of what we do are just live and instructor led. So we will have either myself or some of my colleagues presenting these different webinar series, or they could be self-guided. So we have some certain trainings such as our fundamentals of remote sensing for those that are just wetting their palate and getting a better understanding of what is remote sensing. We have self-guided trainings that one can take. And they're typically online, typically 3 to 4 sessions over the webinar series, and they're typically 1 to 1.5 hours each. I've already discussed that these are cost-free, so anybody who wants to register we encourage you to do so. I will be providing links throughout this slide deck, so we do hope that you'll register for some of our trainings. And all the materials, so all of the slide decks, all of the code, the Jupyter notebooks, the JavaScript developed for, say Google Earth Engine to run some of the code. We provide all of this, and it's all freely available on the training page, as well as all the recordings. So if there was a training that happened 6 months ago or a year ago, you can go to that training page and see a YouTube link and actually watch that recording of that presentation. So all of these materials are freely available, and we do hope that you'll check them out. Many of them are multilingual. All of the training materials are translated into English and Spanish, but we also lead some of the trainings in Spanish and sometimes even in French. And they range from introductory to advanced. And since over the past 14 years, we've conducted over 180 trainings in all the different thematic areas I mentioned earlier. We have had over 100,000 participants from all over the world, from 182 countries. This map that you see on the bottom is just from last year. So you can see those in darker purple are from where more of the participants are coming from. You can see the United States and India are primarily where most of our participants, but obviously it's a global reach. We have people from all over the world joining. And again, wherever you're joining this workshop from today, we hope that you will take one of our future trainings or go back to one of the previous trainings to help you with some of the coastal issues that you might be wanting to address. I think I've already alluded to the different levels of training. We have the fundamentals, which are for those that are just getting into remote sensing. And then from there, we have introductory trainings. This does require some fundamental understanding of remote sensing and some of the concepts and some of the terminology, but anybody can take any of these trainings. And we actually do have people that are more novice, but they actually have an interest enough that they might just go straight to an advanced training. They might have more questions than others, but we never turn away anybody who is interested in any of these trainings. And then once we establish a foundation, if we're doing, say, an agricultural thematic area, we'll have an introductory training, and then the subsequent trainings will build off of that introductory training to actually provide more hands-on. Introductory is more, sharing concepts, sharing different tools, sharing different data sets, and then from intermediate and then finally to advanced, it's much more hands-on. The trainees can expect to, take the code and apply it to their own study area or domain, and then edit that code for maybe different data sets or different time periods, so they can actually perform an analysis in their own area of interest. So these are the different training offerings that we have. And again, we've had many, many trainings that were probably very applicable to everybody on this call. Our RSIT trainings cover a range of topics for a range of users. These are just a flavor of some of the materials that we've developed over the years. They range from fundamentals, which I've already described, and they also give you a good overview of what you need to get started on that. We talk about satellites that are currently in space, as well as upcoming missions and how they work and how to actually use their data through imagery or data. So some of the following trainings, which we provided hyperlinks to, are specific to coastal issues and to coastal management. So again, the slide deck will be provided to you after this workshop or probably even during it. So we do hope that afterward you can go back and explore specifically what these trainings are. This first one, the measuring flood subsidence and sea ice with SAR, this expanded on the theory and applications of SAR, specifically using Sentinel-1 data to detect and monitor floods through the use of time series SAR data. In order to more closely monitor increase in recession of floodwaters. The bottom training that you see, the satellite observations, We're analyzing natural hazards on small island nations. Well, the focus on this training was introducing the data methods and tools useful for monitoring natural disasters and demonstrated methodologies to apply the satellite model data, as well as using open access tools to analyze storm damage impacts, sea level rise, as well as landslides in small island nations. A couple other trainings on this slide that might be of interest to the audience today is the top one, monitoring modeling floods using Earth observations. This is a two-part training focused on recent developments and updates in flood monitoring. The bottom one, disaster assessment using synthetic aperture radar, or SAR. This is how to map flood extent and assess the increase and recession of floodwaters using SAR data. Some of the trainings that we provided on this slide, this is the top one, monitoring coastal and estuarine water quality using remote sensing and in situ data. This is a hands-on training to use level 1 MODIS and VIIRS data provided by the Ocean Biology DAC, as well as CDAS and OCSSW software for deriving water quality parameters. The next training right below that, the monitoring coastal and estuarine water quality, transitioning from MODIS to VIIRS. This training specifically is an intermediate level training, and it provides an overview of recent satellites and sensors used for extending the MODIS long-term water quality time series, specifically focusing on VIIRS image processing using the NASA Ocean Color software, which is CDAS. And then a couple other trainings. I know I'm almost out of time. This top one, remote sensing of coastal ecosystems. Again, this is particularly with those with little remote sensing experience and stand to benefit from this training, covering some of the difficulties associated with remote sensing of coastal ecosystems, particularly beaches and benthic communities such as coral reefs and seagrass. And then this other training on the bottom, Introduction to Remote Sensing for Coastal and Open Applications. This is an introductory course, and participants are provided with an overview of remote sensing for coastal and ocean applications. I know I'm pretty much out of time, so I'm going to skip through that last slide, but you have access to all these, so you can certainly go back and this last slide I'm going to share with you is our website. Please do go and sign up on our listserv. We have plenty, like I said, all the materials are there for you, from our fundamentals to our most recent, and then you can sign up for our upcoming trainings. So do please join our listserv, and I just want to thank everybody and thank you for having RSET part of this program. Lastly, I'm going to add my email as well as my LinkedIn to the chat, so if you wanted to reach out to me directly, please do. And I will now stop sharing my screen, and hopefully everybody has access to control. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you, Sean. We appreciate you sharing with us today. And thank you for unsharing your screen. So any questions that come to you through either the chat or our Google document, we're going to share with you so that you can respond to our participants. And yes, we will share your slides with them so that they can get a hold of those. All right. So we want to take a couple minutes to reflect on Sean's presentation as well. So if you will please go back to the reflection document that we were in before, that you were commenting on for Elizabeth and Leah, and I see that that is actually becoming quite populated, which is very exciting. Thank you for sharing those thoughts. We have just about a minute for you to think a little bit about Sean's presentation, and I see some of you have already started, so thank you. While you think about that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next activity. All right. So we are on to the exploration section of the workshop. For this, you will be in breakout rooms again. A quick introduction to the purpose of the upcoming breakouts. These exercises will provide participants the opportunity to discover NASA datasets through collaboration with one another. Instructions for the exercise are included in the Google document, so the participant guide that you have. An UNBOUND team member will be in each room for support, same one you saw last time when you introduced yourselves. In this exercise, your team will search for a particular data set. You will choose one person to act as the driver, one person to act as the navigator, and one person to act as the observer. The navigator will provide directions to the driver, who will take the wheel, aka the mouse and keyboard, and follow the navigator's instructions as the pair attempts to locate the data set. The activity is most helpful with frequent communication between navigator and driver, as well as input from the rest of the participants as you go along. The observer will take notes and summarize the insights from the group when we return to the main session. The observer will focus on how the information was accessed and highlight any sticking points that were encountered. These breakouts are going to be 20 minutes. You will have 5 minutes or less, if you are able, to choose roles, and 15 minutes to find the information. So a total of 20 in this session. This room will have someone here, if needed, to access your assigned breakout session. The WebEx landing page is where you want to go. Same one that you used last time. Blake is going to link that in the chat for us so that you can go there and click on your breakout room. If you don't remember your breakout room, then it is in the participant guide, which has been kindly posted in the chat by Blake already. So please figure out where you're going, and you will be spending the next 20 minutes with your breakout room facilitator. If we have any presenters in here that want to observe one of the rooms, please let us know. We're happy to send you to one.
Nicole, I'm going to drop off unless you need me to stay. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and do you need me tomorrow or any of the remaining ones? Just let me know if you do.
I don't have you on the schedule for those, but I'll
Okay.
check with George and Wendy, and
Okay.
we'll get back to you on that.
That sounds fine. And thank you so much. This is great. I did want to mention one of the lessons learned from the EJ workshop was that some of the participants said that they found it intimidating for the NASA folks to be in the breakout rooms where they were struggling.
Okay.
So, you know, I struggle too with some of that. So yeah, so I'm not going to join, and just let us know if there's anything you
Sure.
need.
Thanks for that insight. We will take that into consideration tomorrow.
Cool. All
Have a
right.
good one.
All right. You take care. Thanks so much.
Yeah, Nicole, I'm happy to go into one, but yeah, I wasn't sure if you had a good read on whether or not that would be again intimidating. But I'm happy to go
I'm
where you
gonna
want.
go with Elizabeth's guidance, and I'll just keep you here if you want to stay.
That's fine.
They should be back in 20 minutes. You don't have to stay the rest of the time. It's going to be a report out on their sessions, so we can hear how those went and collect a little bit of their insights from that.
Okay. I'll probably just hang and then multitask a little bit and then come back for that report out. Thank you.
So I have a couple of remaining people. Hey, Stinger. Thanks for staying. You're muted.
I had to step out for a meeting. Where are we on the agenda right now?
So we are in the breakout sessions.
Okay.
And Elizabeth was just saying that sometimes people find it intimidating for NASA people to join those. So you're welcome to join one if you want to, but I wasn't going to specifically assign you.
Yeah, I usually just pop in every once in a while.
Sure. I see a few people still here. Caitlin,
Yeah.
do you need any support in getting to a room?
That's what I was asking Caitlin as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to pop around the rooms just to make sure that they're going well, and then I'll be back here.
I'll be here double checking things.
Okay.
Hi, Caitlin. Can you hear me? Let's see. So you can go to breakout 2. And that'll take you, just press the button group 2. And they'll be happy to have you there.
Do we still have Blake in this one?
Yep, I'm here.
So could we get at 12:10, do you think? That's the 10-minute mark for these sessions?
Yeah, because I have it ending at about 12:24 when we actually started things there, plus or minus a minute.
Sure.
So maybe 12:12. What is that? How does that sound to you?
That sounds great.
Okay, sounds good. And I've got
And as you can tell by now, timing is not quite the way one might think. When you give a 5-minute warning, it's secretly roughly 10 minutes.
I was gonna ask. I thought that we're gonna have a longer time for the breakout, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, so George was texting me, ensuring that these presentations got the appropriate amount of time. So
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah, and when you're ready for me to cut folks off, I can take presenter stuff away from them, and then that turns off sharing without sharing another screen. Like how AGU and other science conferences does it, they just kick you out.
Yeah, so I very much need them back by 12:24 minimum.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm gonna go and start doing the 10-minute warning now. Try to hit them.
And Blake, when they do come back, I'm going to have you share the new Padlet link for the reflection activity after that.
Oh, was there a new link made or the breakout?
It's not the one from this morning. It's a different one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'll show you.
Yeah, send it to me.
No, I'm not allowed to share anymore.
Oh. You mean share your screen?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, we'll need to wait for.
So it looks like this.
Back here. Oh, breakout. Yeah, I have that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have that link. Yep, I do.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah. I'm gonna private chat you it, and this is what I have in my spreadsheet, but it's break dash out dash reflection.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. So that was a 10-minute warning issued at 12:11, 12:21. We're at 12:16, 5-minute warning. Seeing a lot of smiling faces.
I don't know if they're afraid or happy or who knows.
I don't know. A lot of cool visualizations though.
Do you have like all the screens up?
Trying. I need
Cool.
it would be I need to requisition 2 more monitors and a giant kind of a spider network to hold all the monitors together.
Nice.
That's what I need. So I figured out a system. I mean, I can keep, with doing the regular breakouts, I can't keep track of everything at once. With this one, I can, but it also, hopefully people finding their way there is another story. Get ready for Okay, 5-minute warnings are going out now. How are you doing, Nicole? Doing okay?
Great.
Good.
Things seem to be going well. I see you worked all weekend, so thanks for that.
It's no different from any other weekend, as you know.
Yeah, good job, Blake, getting all this together. It's really good.
It wasn't just me. It was really nice that I mean, Jason and Chris were working just as much as George and I, trying to yell at Cisco people. So we're actually on a Cisco account right now and not an ODU one. So
Whatever works.
it's working. Yeah, tested it Sunday night and early this morning at about 7. So far. Beautiful timing with Cisco. I think we'll have to ask Stinger if NASA can reconsider their Artemis contract with Cisco. Of course, as a joke. Okay, about to do. Okay, about to do 1-minute warnings. That way you can get some extra time, Nicole.
That's all right. I mean, as long as they're back here at 12:24. But it takes a couple minutes for them to move back and forth between rooms. So if we cut them off at what, like 12:21, maybe get them to me soon enough.
Exactly. Yep, that's what I'm aiming for.
I'm glad you've bought into the measures in minutes are no longer real. They extend 1 minute secretly equals 2, 2 minutes secretly equals 4.
Yeah, I've managed and did my own workshops, especially over COVID, for phonology stuff with teachers. So it's totally understandable.
And I know everyone is like, she can't count. And I'm like, oh no, I know. I just
it happens. I mean, does anyone want to be the person that like, your time's up, you're done?
And it's really great stuff. I was really excited to learn about it too. So.
Yeah, I learned some new things. Great. All right, 1-minute warnings have been sent out everywhere. The pressure is on. I see people really getting into it.
That's great.
Yeah. I think there's a person in breakout 3 that has probably the best background because it's filled with trees.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's automatic, the best one. That's why I like the Jedi data. Oh, muted Stinger?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
I was asking how you think it's going.
Well, I'm pretty hard on myself and I'd like to see improvements.
I think it's going great.
I think the logistics are going really well. I'm seriously concerned that they're spending too much time training and not enough actually using the data. Because if you train them to use the data, then you've kind of negated the whole reason that we're doing Unbound.
So our sessions for the next few days have fewer presentations and a longer breakout session.
And it's the same group of people, is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. Okay.
And that's also input we can give to our breakout room facilitators to ensure that there's not training, but it's just a search.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask, just because, and I didn't give you guys a heads up on this before, but other Unbound workshops, one thing that participants finds, and it's completely like at NASA, we use the cloud all the time. You know, most of our data is in the cloud. We do processing in the cloud because you can't I was just saying in one of the breakouts, they tried to download a 1 terabyte file, and I'm like,
That's
yeah,
large.
not gonna work. uh, but if you're using a cloud, if you're using even Binder, which gives you like minor use in the cloud, it becomes pretty easy to do analyses on that 1 terabyte file because you don't have to download it. You know.
All right, good
So
pointer. Thank you for that. I will
well,
share
I'm
that
just
out to the
wondering,
group.
but I'd like to hear. I'd just like you to take a second at some point and ask how many people are doing processing in the cloud. That's all.
Okay.
Because that would be useful to me to know.
Okay. Is that okay if that question happens tomorrow?
I don't care when.
Okay.
I'd just like it to be in the report.
Okay.
Because we're trying to figure out, that was one of those things like the zip code search that it just never occurred to any of us at NASA that no one would be using cloud, to do processing.
Great. All right. I think we have most of our groups back from their session. And in anticipation of everyone's return, I want to welcome you all back and get us started on another reflection activity. So Blake is going to post the link to this reflection activity in the chat so that you can access it. It is a similar setup to the last one. So as a demo, if you want to add under this question, you click the plus sign and it pops up that lovely box where you can answer that question. And the same with the other questions across the screen. So the purpose of this reflection is to find out how you think it went in these groups that you were in for the last few minutes. We're interested to hear if you knew about the data, if you think it's useful, how you think that application may be something that you get more comfortable with in the future, or that you experienced some impediments with today. So if you'll please open up this Padlet, I see some of you joining now, then we will go ahead and get this reflection activity started. We're going to give you just another minute. And for those who have joined in the last minute or so, I'm going to just re-welcome you back to the group and share that we are now working on a reflection activity. That reflection activity is posted in the chat so that you can find the link. If you can't find the link, let us know and we will make sure to repost it. But it's here. Some of you are already providing input, so I greatly appreciate that. And this reflection activity will remain available to you throughout the remainder of our session, which is not very long, and this evening so that you can continue to add comments in there. We did have a set of observers / note takers in our breakout rooms, and I want to thank them as well as our navigators and drivers and all of our participants for their hard work. Thank you so much. We would like to take just a few minutes to get some insights from our observers and note takers. So if you were a participant observer, would you please give us your greatest success and greatest sticking point? We have only about 4 minutes for this activity and we have 5 groups. So we're going to go ahead and get started with group 1. Are you back yet? And is your observer able to unmute yourself and share with us?
Yeah.
Great. What was your greatest success?
I think our greatest success was that we were able to successfully download the data that we needed, and within the time frame given.
And your greatest sticking point?
Well, there were a few things to consider. That we needed to consider the file involved. We needed to consider the that there were specific we needed to consider the specific where to find the information we needed. And so apart from the download that was not too big, we needed to specify where to find a moment. I took some notes, but it's kind of taken a bit time to show. Awesome. Great. So we needed to consider the exact location where we're looking for. We're looking for Gulf of Mexico, and the file was too big. The resolution, there wasn't anywhere to choose where to the type of resolution we're looking for, and it kind of didn't give us the option to either download everything or download specific information or specific data we needed. And so that was there to consider.
Thank you. Is our breakout 2 observer available? If you will unmute yourself and let us know if you experienced a different success or sticking point in your group.
Yes. So I was the observer for group 2. I would say that our success was the ability to find the data sets as quickly as we were able to. Although we didn't get to complete fully both activities, we were able to find exactly where those paths were, as well as where the actual data was being held at. One of the biggest challenges I think we were dealing with was the layers and understanding what was necessary versus what wasn't necessary for what we were trying to accomplish. But we were able to finish the first part of the activity very successfully. The one dealing with the coastline sea surface temperature data for Hurricane Katrina in 2005 in the Gulf of Mexico. We focused most of our attention on Lafourche Parish in Louisiana to make an assessment.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Group 3, is your observer here and available to unmute themselves to share your greatest success and greatest sticking point?
Yeah, I'm Kyle. I was the observer for group 3. Our notes were that we initially tried, I think, going down the data pathfinder approach. And I think we struggled to make a lot of progress that way. We were even getting some errors on some of the interfaces, so we weren't really sure what was going on there. And then we pivoted to using worldview. And initially, when I think we first opened up worldview, I could see the benefit on those kind of thematic displays, but it could be overwhelming, especially when you're like on the spot being asked to look around.
Sure.
So eventually, we just decided to search for SST, and we had some success there. I think, just in the interest of time, we just selected the one at the top, but it wasn't really clear to us what the differences were between all those. And then after we selected that, it didn't draw initially. And I think that had to do with the time step, or maybe it was trying to focus on today, and today's layer hadn't loaded yet. But once we went back in time, we got it to draw. And so that went well. And we were able to do that and determine, what happened in front or behind the hurricane. Not exact data, numbers to put to that, or we didn't download anything. But I think maybe we could have gotten there more time. And we determined some other applications for sea surface temperature.
Okay. Thank you. So we are at 12:31, and I do want to hear from our 2 remaining individuals that have to report out for us. But I want to remind the whole session, just in case anybody has a hard stop now, that there is a reflection activity available to you where we are hoping to collect your thoughts on this session. We encourage you to go into this evening to continue to think about and share with us some of your greatest successes and struggles within those activities. So those of you who are able to stick around, I promise we will not go past 12:35. So thank you for for staying with us. Is our group 4 observer able to share with us? If so, please unmute. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, we leveraged Earth Data GIS, and we guesstimated based on the name and the short description that was available that we were going to use the Power Meteorology Monthly. We were able to get that interface to show up and give us a time series over time of change in the goal. But our sticking point was when we narrowed it down to the specific time dates that we needed to look at, we couldn't see any changes at all whatsoever in our data. So what we ended up doing was playing with some options and advanced setting button that we found, and that didn't help at all. But we had great teamwork.
Good try. Wonderful. And great attitude. All right, group 5, could you have your observer unmute and share with us your greatest successes and sticking points?
Hey there. Yeah, so we unfortunately were not able to find the data set in the allotted time. We worked kind of purely on instinct. We began our search from the main home screen, just typing in the data set verbatim to see what that would find. At first it was a dead end, but then we found the Find Data button, which takes you to the Earth Data portal. A good thing about that is that when you implement a search, the filters automatically apply, which was nice. The only thing that we kind of had a sticking point was one, going through the filters and making sure everything was assigned correctly based on our search. Two, the time dimension isn't as explicit as it could be in stating that you need to have hours, minutes, seconds. We kind of fumbled around a little bit picking the correct start and end date for the time series. I would say our communication though was really well. We got to the correct kind of like pipeline to get to the data points. But another interesting thing that I found was that when we did kind of get there towards the end, under the matching collections, there's just a plethora of data sources. So it's a little tough to deduce which data set is correct. They're all from the same variables in the same date range, but there's different ones, so you don't know which ones to pick. So yeah, we had a few sticking points. We weren't able to get it. A suggestion might be to make a how-to video just for new data users. Just, this is how we extract data, this is how we look at it, and just post it somewhere on the NASA site. But yeah, those are my comments.
Thank you. And I'm happy to share with you that we will have some tips and tricks to how to do these exercises shared with you throughout the workshop after you have tried, so that you get a little bit of a better sense of how that's successfully done. So you will get some of that info. So I want to thank everyone for sharing your group experiences. Any questions that we didn't get to or comments that we didn't get to can be shared in the participant guide in the Google Doc that you have been working in today. Also, please make sure to return to the reflection documents as you think through your experience today to share with us how it influenced your interactions with NASA resources. We want to just quickly remind ourselves that the purpose of this session was to introduce you to resources available from NASA to examine coastal zone management issues with your communities. We want to thank you for your time. Please do expect a follow-up email from us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And I will just say the reflection activity looks great right now. Many of you have already shared it. So thank you so much.
If I could chime in real quick before we go, Nicole, I just wanted to thank everybody as well and for putting up with our PAC program. And I mean putting up in the best way, because we had some just really excellent presenters, and that was the tough thing, is we wanted to get everybody in, but also leave you guys time for these breakout sessions, which I think are hugely important to us. And so this day one, I feel like is kind of packed with the good stuff from a lot of these NASA folks. And then we're going to do more of we're going to have more good stuff and good presenters on the following days, but we're going to have a little more extended breakout sessions on days 2, 3, and 4 to really get into like these exercises with you and working as a team through some of the data resources. So I'm really looking forward to that next step, that next evolution on days 2, 3, and 4, and hope I see all of you guys back here tomorrow. So thank you. So see you tomorrow.